Welcome to Made It with Connor Tompkins.
I'm here with Barry Stamos. He is a post-exit founder. He's also a repeat founder, and he invests in pretty big moonshots. So he does big swings on big companies, and he does it with other post-exit founders. So it makes a lot of sense for us to have him on this podcast about Made It, because he's made it, and then he's helping other people make it too. So Barry, good to have you on the pod.
Amazing to be here. Thank you, Connor.
I think about a lot of things whenever I think about our first conversation we had. I think about how you told me about your investment in Colossal. I think about Ayahuasca a little bit. I think about the multitude of startups that you've been involved in, and it's a little hard to sum it up, all the different things that you've started or initiated or worked with other people on. But I would love to hear about chapter one. How did you get your start? How did you get into running a company, essentially?
Yeah, well, that's a fun story. And it's been a journey for sure. And it keeps getting more and more interesting. So my first startup was... We'll begin with a bit of a Morpheus moment. So I was working for one of the big five. I was working for Arthur Andersen. Some may know it as Andersen Consulting. Others that are kind of younger now know Accenture. And at the time, I was climbing the corporate ladder, got promoted 3 times in 3 years. I was set on making partner. That was my lifestyle. I couldn't wait to be a lifer there. Inconvenient truth, there was an Enron scandal. A handful of partners weren't in integrity with a client. Anyway, long story short, the whole company just folded overnight, essentially. And it was also at that time, no bullshit, a couple weeks prior, this movie came out called The Matrix. Just wild in terms of the parallels. Even kind of the character in the movie, Neo, was at opposition with this bot that was literally calling him Mr. Anderson, that was in my head. And, when I watched that movie, I remember feeling it was just so real, this, red pill, blue pill moment, and that the life I was living wasn't really true to me, but that was an inconvenient truth. And so fate, destiny, what have you, would cause the whole company to crumble so that I could wake up, so to speak, and do what I was really meant to do, which is be a founder. And so, I realized if these existing companies, the most powerful ones in the world, are that fragile and susceptible to risk, why not do the riskiest thing, which is, the startup journey?
Yeah, you think that you have a stable paycheck. You think that, and in many ways you do, right? It is less risky fundamentally than a startup. But I guess it just opened your eyes that the opportunity cost is maybe different than you thought.
Big time. I mean, my sister right now is a global diplomat, and she's, abroad in Africa, and it looks like she might lose her position, which, you would have thought was one of the most stable, careers. So the truth is, control's an illusion, and we get to, in many ways, make conscious choices to write our own, destiny. So that experience with Andersen was powerful, working for a management, consulting company and accounting firm, learned a lot in those years, and then went to do the startup thing and failed miserably, truthfully, for the first year and a half. I mean, we really struggled to make any money. I didn't raise money because I didn't even know I could do that. That's how newbie of a founder I was at the time. Ended up maxing out my credit cards. I remember my father calling me and saying, Barry, it's time to hang it up and return home. Initially, when I went to parties and told my friends I was a tech founder, they would be like, high five, that's amazing. And then I would tell them that it's an email company, and they'd be like, so you're a spammer? And I caught a ton of shit for it. And I was like, no, not really. I'm not. I'm actually one of the good guys, permission-based marketing. And so what ended up being kind of the dark side of my journey as a founder ended up being the lightest, brightest path forward in terms of breaking through. So right when we were about to, fold, my co-founder and I ended up having just a big inspiration to speak truth. And so I started writing and speaking about spam and that how all advertisers are spammers. So there's spam on TV that's interrupting our programming. There's billboards that block our views of nature. And I got a ton of hate mail from agencies. And I got some love letters from some companies that caught my vibe. And those were my initial anchor clients. And through that, we grew, and we ended up doing an acquisition with Responses, doubled up, headcount. And then that was the brand that stood the test of time. I left right before we IPO'd. So we had a really successful IPO, incredible company. We were the first to invent, everyone's familiar with it now, but the drip sequence. So the idea that you can automate email. So you can send an email, and if somebody clicks, you can send multiple, more emails specifically regarding that subject matter. If somebody doesn't click, then you can, stop sending them an email or send them different. So like mapping out like life cycle programs. I mean, it's standard now, but at the time that was really innovative. And then the irony, of course, with the Matrix movie and, my Morpheus moment, my call to action and, and taking the road less traveled and following my truth is that we ended up selling the company to Oracle. It ended up exiting for, I think it was like 1.6 billion. And of course, like by then I was completely watered down, but still, I mean, successful exit. And I got the, unicorn founder badge.
It's a really rare thing to see a bootstrap company in particular reach that.
It wasn't bootstrap. So Responses raised lots of money. So that was
oh, okay.
Inbox marketing was bootstrapped.
Was this more like a merger of equals? Like where like you guys are like, let's combine forces to scale, or did you guys acquire this company?
My company was actually Responses' first acquisition. So we were like, and that was really early on. So that was really cool. I mean, it was great for us because they knew what they were doing. We were really smart and we were in at the right time. And, we had some really good traction and I had hired some incredible people, but the Responses management, like leadership, they had a board, they had funding, like they were really good folks to team up with, we'll say.
How was that transition for you? Because going from like running your own company to working with someone else's systems and structures, is that a little strange initially?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as you know, for those of us that have gotten acquired and worked for the parent company or at whatever stage, it's very different. Truth be told, at the time for me, I was completely burned out. I was, more machine than man. Like I barely could feel. I would go for dinner and not even taste the food kind of thing. Like I couldn't be in relationship with anybody. All I could do is obsess about work. And, my whole life was, my startup essentially. I was single. We're multidimensional beings. I was very single-dimensioned, if you will, and obsessed in many ways. And that's okay, but it wasn't okay. I only lasted, a couple years, post-acquisition. Definitely didn't thrive in that type of, an environment. I also got bored, if I'm honest. Like for me, I like to joke now that I have kind of the heart of an early stage startup founder and the lifestyle of a successful scale-up. I like all the resources, but I love just the possibility and the creativity and the ingenuity and like the intuitive nature of decision making early stage. It's just anything's possible. It's just so exciting and thrilling.
It is a little strange that like as a founder, you like new ideas. You like to bounce around, but whenever your company is successful and you're in it for 6 or however many years it is, depending on your journey, right? You're kind of stuck. You're doing a disservice to your employees and your company. You're happy that the company's making it. You're happy that they're doing well. You like your team. You can't bounce around to another job. Someone else can. You're there.
Also, too, it's so interesting because like at the earlier stages, it's like so important that you're chocked full of innovation and you're testing and trying, many different things, finding, product market fit, feeling legit. Now you're the shit. And then it's like, as you grow and scale, everybody wants you to de-risk everything around you. It's like, we want to understand, predict, and rapidly repeat results, at scale. The avatar that is me, where I'm in my, highest power, so to speak, is a disruptor by nature. It's like, I want to get in there and, change things and really build and create, new innovative things. And it's like, that's not always welcomed, depending, especially right before, an IPO.
Do you feel like you get more of that from investing? That you get to be more involved in some pretty cool companies and you get to scratch that itch in a different way than maybe just focusing on one?
Yeah. So I've never thought of myself as an investor. That kind of title doesn't ring true for me. And I see different levels of investing and then different levels of like what investments look like. So there's like, putting money in and walking away. And then there's like putting time in. For me, I look at what founders really need. And, certainly all of us, especially while we're raising capital, it's like, just write me a check. Come on already. It's like, I'm all for companies getting the funding that they need. At the same time, too, after working with hundreds of founders on their journey, I've come to realize they need more than money. We need more than money. It's like we need support. We need, ideally, other folks who have played the game and won to get hands-on, to carry the load with us and to be part of the team and to be intimately involved in the business. Because, especially if I'm listening to or giving anybody advice, it's like I really need to understand the dynamics, right? Otherwise, what I say could actually be more harmful than helpful. And so I take that really seriously. It's like being a a truth teller, understanding the founder, the dynamics, and ultimately, how I can support them with their dream.
Hey, podcast listeners, this podcast is brought to you by Pineview Insurance Group. When I sold my company, I wasn't really sure what I should be doing. I started buying a rental property, I started buying a car, and I didn't really know what I needed to do from an insurance standpoint. But that stuff is very, very important. Me and a lot of my founder friends, after selling a business, we have no idea what we should be doing insurance-wise, and that's where Pineview Insurance Group comes in. So after selling his insurance company for $435 million, Mike Lloyd started this new company. I highly recommend it. It really does an audit on your assets and tells you what you should be investing in terms of insurance. So this is everything from your auto, your home, your umbrella policy, and much, much more. So if you guys are curious about working with an insurance group that's geared towards entrepreneurs, I recommend Pineview. You can get access to Pineview's new member waitlist at pvig.com/made-it. Again, that's pvig.com/made-it. Cheers, guys. I think you guys capped the number of investments you guys do, right? I think you guys did 12 investments, roughly one per month.
Yeah.
Is that intentional, just to be that you're allocating a certain amount of time?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so when we started Supernova, the intention was, let's focus on 10 to 12 companies, like world-changing companies that we can really support in a significant way. I mean, my first company was a Silicon Valley tech company. If Sequoia got behind you, it was like, you had, all the resources backing you. You know what I mean? It was really, it's like harder to fail, really hard to fail. It's like success rates are extremely high. It's because they had, such a support system. I'm trying to do that without being controlling, like not a puppet master, but like really, wanting to get behind companies so we can create, a supernova of impact together. That's really the dream within the dream.
What do you think makes startups more successful in some cities or some locations or in certain programs versus others?
I definitely believe that location does matter. That's not to say that there aren't plenty of successful founders right now. They're running everything virtually. It's more challenging, but it's certainly possible. When I was in San Francisco, what made it easier for me is that everybody's accessible and almost like a pinball machine. It's like, I would bring my idea, my deck to different people who would all shape it in some way. They'd give me feedback. I mean, part of the fundraising process I love to share with founders, it isn't just about like the check and getting, a strategic investor to back you. It's a beautiful rite of passage. It's like a ritual, like where you can go through and get access to people you wouldn't normally and benefit from their wisdom, their experiences, asking them maybe beyond the check, what resources, they can recommend or people in their network that they can introduce you to. And when you play the game, I've got two boys that I'm raising, and it's, the kind of the adage, like it takes a team, it takes a village. Like it's like, it does. And so the more folks that can shape the narrative, the startup game too, for me, has always been one where it's a continuous learning system. It's just a feedback loop. It's like you put something in play and you see how people respond or react to it. And then you make adjustments, and it's just like rapid prototyping. And it's like, if you get to use discernment in terms of who you're listening to and what you're incorporating and how you're making changes, empowering others around you to do that. And if you play that game, like if you're really tuned in to the channels that like matter, it's amazing how quickly you can cut through the clutter and really, figure out that signal to noise ratio.
So getting that feedback, doing those iterations really, really quickly, that environment has a lot to do with what type of feedback you're receiving. Is it quality feedback? There also might be some like structural things that might be helping them do iterations quickly or have the resources to be able to do those changes rapidly. How is Supernova almost structuring itself to provide some of those things?
The game is challenging, as you know, right? I mean, the odds are stacked against us in every way, every venture, every new venture. And so founders especially, like we don't trust that many people. If I look back on my moments of truth and I look back on like who really had my back, like when I was up against the wall, or who I really confided in or trusted for counsel, it was other founders. It was other, especially exited founders who had played the game and, yes, they've leveled, like avatars, like playing a game, going around collecting coins. Like, sure, they had some success, but more importantly, like they had the battle scars to kind of like talk to me about like, hey, this is what I would do if I were you, but also too, watch out, because these are the different ways you can get screwed. Bring that into the context of Supernova. I started doing some angel investing and also some advising for founders that I believed were at the intersection of profit and purpose, who were doing well by doing good, and putting my own time and energy into their ventures and serving them as a advisor isn't even the right word. It's like part CEO coach, part advisor, part consultant, part fractal executive, part, right? I mean, it's like what avatar do you need, right? Janitor,
you're
I'll take out the
in.
trash. Yeah, like that's what we are as founders, right? We do whatever it takes. But what I found was a real key ingredient to success was bringing in other people, like other exited founders who are really, they could play all these different roles, but each one of us has like a zone of genius. It's like mine happens to be, was more in marketing, right? That way I could put in the 10,000 plus hours. So like I can really help as a growth marketer, but we all have these zones of genius, fundraising, sales, like everyone's got kind of that, like a snowflake, right? What makes them really unique and special. And if we can put them into their power lanes, their swim lanes, and do more than just like advise, but like actually hold them accountable to OKRs and, KPIs, just like I would my management team, we've got a dream team around us. And so when I started doing that, even before Supernova, I watched like companies just, the growth and impact was significant. It was an accelerant, a catalyst. And so now we're doing that at Supernova. We're a few hundred successfully exited founders choosing to team up together and forming tiger teams to back other founders' dreams to help rapidly accelerate the achievement of some key milestones.
Barry, I think a lot of people who listen to this podcast, they really like to know like inputs and outputs. What are some of the investments that you made? What were some of the inputs that you put in? And then what were some of the outputs? Do you want to share some of the investments that you've done?
So one, I want to just share because I think it's such a cool story and it's a good one for all of us to just like, it's also a cautionary tale. And so Tuff and Needle started at the same time, almost the same time as Casper. The founders of Tuff and Needle claim that they started a little before Casper, but they both were early first to market in terms of mattress in a box. Casper raised over 350 million. We raised zero. I was a founding advisor of Tuff and Needle. We hit 250 million in annual recurring revenue within 5 years. I mean, like mastered, like who our super fans were, minimalists, and really just like became one of the top rated, mattresses on the planet, and, really worked Amazon, and they changed the game in terms of like mattress returns. So instead of just like sending them back and them landing in landfills, they had them cleaned and brought them into orphanages and then brought them into like Goodwill, and then other companies started following that too. So opportunity not just to make money, but also to do good. And that's a great story. And the cautionary tale is like sold it to Serta Simmons Bedding. Serta merged with Simmons, Six Sigma, so they could, do the warehouse thing. And this is now the .com company. So now they're ripe for an IPO. Didn't get to an IPO. And the company filed for bankruptcy. I think it was like, about a year and a half ago. Founders still did well, and we all did well, and great example of doing everything right. I mean, as a founder, like you dream of those kinds of revenues and like having that kind of exit, which is obviously life-changing for them and many other, folks, employees and folks that had stock. But like also too, beware of, the acquisition and the PE company. And I mean, they were the largest shareholders and now they're wiped off, it's like gone. And now they are involved in Supernova and supporting us with companies that were making investment cash and also compounding that investment with a 3 to 5 person exited founder team. Good to have like that kind of awareness. Our first portfolio company at Supernova was Colossal Biosciences. So Ben Lamb, 6-time exited founder, amazing human, partnered up and co-founded it with George Church, who's one of the top scientists of our time, was on the team that helped initiated DNA sequencing. So we knew that they are winners. Colossal has a mission to end extinction, like end the extinction of animals. If you look at like the rate at which animals are going extinct, it's insane. Long story short, within 4 years now, less than 4 years, they not only hit unicorn status, they just recently, just weeks ago, announced Decacorn status. So $10.2 billion valuation Series C.
That's incredible.
Within 4 years. Insane. And it's a great example of people want to get behind ventures that actually stand for something, right? That actually can positively impact the world, that can actually solve humanity's biggest problems. And we need more of that.
I almost want to highlight those two different examples, right? Because on one hand, you have Tuff and Needle, which also has a good mission, but we can understand a mattress company. that comes in a box. But I feel like they took the extra step of being like, oh, I have this problem of all these returns. How do I maximize the impact of this problem that I have? And then they almost worked backwards to find the mission, right? Where Colossal is almost like mind-blowing from the get-go. How do you even produce this woolly mammoth? Because the mission is so big, it draws people to it, right? You find the best people because that mission is so exciting, right? And there is something that helps amplify that company just because they have that big, hairy, audacious goal that if they can get the right amount of support and the right amount of funding, then they can get there. But it's a lot. It's like to support that Decacorn status.
And just to be clear too, I mean, my co-founder, Christopher Staley, like when we started Supernova, we were like, we're not about moonshots. Like we get to, support, founders at all different kind of, stages. But like the general ethos, is absolutely, how do we create Olympic teams for venture humanity? What would it look like right now as an example if like all the billionaires got together and teamed up to like solve the world's problems? Like that might not happen today or tomorrow, but we can get together as exited founders. Like everyone's a creator. You can learn something from everyone. Like let's work with creators who have been successful and actually collaborate in meaningful ways that can positively impact, each other's lives. But more importantly, like people and the planet. Like that's the game. And yeah, you're spot on with Colossal. I mean, the mission is incredibly ambitious, and every single animal plays a part in like this delicate ecosystem on Earth, and most people don't even realize to what extent they're reliant or dependent on one another.
Hey guys, this episode of the Made It podcast is brought to you by our friends at Build, spelled BYLDD. Build is a development agency that specializes in helping early stage startups, especially non-technical founders and teams, build and launch scalable revenue generating software products. Most startups don't have $100K to hand over to a big agency, and honestly, for your first product, you probably shouldn't. Sure, you can try to roll the dice with some freelancers on Upwork, but that's a gamble with unclear costs and a lot of project management headaches and no guarantees. That's where Build comes in. For just $10K in about a month, Build can turn your validated idea into a product that's ready to go to market. It's a smart, efficient way to build a foundation for a company of any size. Their clients have gone on to be backed by Y Combinator and Google and have raised funding in the multi-million-dollar valuations. Ready to get started? Head over to build.com. Again, that's build, BYLDD.com. Connect with Ayush and let them know that you heard about Build on the Made It podcast. Cheers. I'm very interested in bringing back extinct animals. I think there's a lot that could come from it, but I'm also curious about what are the byproducts that are like from them doing this that might be really helpful from like a medicine standpoint, like the Apollo mission, like benefits towards computing and thrust and like so many different things that came from the Apollo mission. Some of them were unintentional. So I'm a little curious about them going down this path.
As a marketing person, I just look at like, if you try to get people to care about the extinction of animals, people care, but they feel like helpless. There's not much we can do, right? So even just like bringing awareness to that, I mean, by just popularizing like, hey, bringing back extinct animals is now cool or it's possible. My hope, my prayer is that people will actually care about the animals that are going extinct now, right? Hopefully we don't have to bring back more extinct animals. Like we can protect it, the ones that we have now by focusing on the ecosystems, which is why like Colossal's already stood up like a $50 million foundation. And I mean, this gets a bit controversial, but like to bring back an extinct species, you get to leverage synthetic wombs, right? I mean, we're already like cloning dogs, which, people have very different opinions on, right? But like ultimately, if you have synthetic wombs, you can grow things, right? And so, you fast forward to a crazy time where some believe that we'll be able to upload our consciousness to the cloud. I'm already uploading all of my, family photos and images on my iPhone to the cloud, right? So in some ways, my consciousness is happening there. I mean, AI is becoming a second brain. Conceivably, whether we figure out, and we will, how to keep our, biological meat suits and extend longevity for as long as we choose, or we choose to upload and then download into another form, another physical form. I know that's going to, scare people, and it's the future.
Barry, are there some companies that you're looking at now for, let's say, your February or your March or your April next big investment, what are some companies that catch your eye, that make you excited?
Well, I'd love to talk about one portco that actually is really, thrilling right now. Apollo Neuro. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're scientists that brought out of the science lab a wearable, which is normally not a good investment, although Fitbit did pretty well. But it's a wearable that emits a vibrational frequency that calms the central nervous system, that has a similar impact on our body as meditation and breath work. It's mind, heart, body coherence. And we just finished a study, and actually, I think by the time this podcast comes out, hopefully it'll be published. But we just did a huge study with Oura Ring and proved that if you're sleeping less than 6 hours a night and you use it as directed, you can get an hour more. The average person gets an hour more sleep. So like, if you think about that in the context of like melatonin gives you on average 6 to 8 minutes incremental sleep. Ambient gives you incremental 24 to 28. And these are clinical like studies. Now we have a study, like a proven study showing that Apollo gives you an extra hour. This actually really moves the needle on sleep. And it makes sense. It's like, it's emitting, like when we're babies in the womb, we've got like the vibrational frequency of our mother's heartbeat, right? The idea that you can leverage that vibrational frequency and tune it into, a calming or energy. Like instead of, I drink matcha, but like I can also use my Apollo to, like have the equivalent of like an espresso shot if I want to put myself up before the gym or recover.
How is this working? Is it just a frequency that calms your wavelengths or amplifies them?
I mean, just so you know, like Einstein said, the future of medicine is frequency. So, and there's Nikola Tesla. No different than, when you play certain types of music. Like I've got classical music right now in the background, right? That gets me into a certain flow state. Just like you play different music to kind of like come into different, states of consciousness, if you will.
I mean, to your point, music is probably the only thing where you don't need to describe to someone. You can play it to someone that has never heard it before and they get a feeling. Like,
exactly.
It's the only example of that.
Apollo Neuro effectively does that, but it's with body vibrations. So it's like, and you can feel it. It's like almost like Chinese tapping. Like you can feel the vibration. I wear mine on my wrist, but some people put it on their chest. Some people put it on their ankle when they're sleeping. And we're actually doing licensing deals now where we're putting it into beds, right? So, this will become more ubiquitous, whether it's Apollo Neuro or, other companies. But the idea one day of no different than like how you use Spotify to put on music, you're literally going to be, and they already have AI where now it's reading what you need and playing what you need. So, and I really look at it like one of the guys from our team is Tim Cheng, who's like super conscious, amazing human being who founding partner of Mayfield, like, 2-time Midas list, named VC. And when he saw it, he said, hey, all these other wearables read, like meaning they report. This is the first one I've seen that writes. Once it knows what you need, it actually will act and deliver on, what you'll need so that you can feel better.
I feel like we cause a lot of issues for ourselves as humans because we have technology, we have social media, we get a lot of, recently I'm reading, I think it's called The Anxious Generation, like the book talking about like the spiking in anxiety in children in schools, right? We cause these issues. And then the question is that can we almost revert and like understand what the issues are and go backwards as far as like going more walks, get more daylight early, which we should probably do. But then is there also ways that we can use science to help us almost leapfrog some of the issues? It's like carbon capture. If we're talking about, it's going to be really hard for us to go to no emissions at all, but can we also reduce emissions as well as like capturing actively carbon? Then maybe there's a shot.
There are so many people right now, like my parents, are at an age, and I'm sure, many of our parents, like, we're like, I'm learning more about all the things that I didn't know about as we, reach ripe old age. And it's like, there's so many people that won't even take their life-saving medication. I mean, as tech founders, we get to create technology that makes life easier. Imagine that. Like that was the whole promise of technology. It's like, I love my dishwasher. I love, airplanes. These are game-changing technologies. And so the fact I can put on a, wearable and have it vibrate and immediately, tune my central nervous system into a state of calm when I'm stressed, especially when I'm in New York City. It's like I've I've done a lot of work on myself over the years to come into a place where I'm fairly centered and I'm human. I get knocked off my center in a nanosecond. I get triggered by things all the time, and it's so important. So yeah, we get to do better, and I believe we get to do better together. I mean, this is where it's, we get to team up to do these things, and there's so many companies out there that are, founders especially, that are, they picked whatever dream that they want to bring to light, and it's wonderful. So one of the companies we just recently I found this woman who's, she's in her 20s, but she's a PhD. She got her PhD from Oxford, and her founder story is that when she was 4, she was banging her, parents kind of yelled at her because she was banging her head up against the wall. And she said, I did that so I'd be more focused on the acute pain that's coming from my head hurting from banging it against the wall, so I wouldn't have to deal with my migraines. And then she educated us on headaches and migraines are the number one, it's either number 1 or number 2 neurological disorder. And there's no cure today. And she's like, I've been focusing on this my whole life, and I think I have, she's not allowed to say a cure, but it's like this works for 40% of people, and so that helps reduce the severity and or the frequency, or completely eliminates them. So yeah, we're just getting started with her and backing her, but the company's called Brain Ritual. It's like a ritual that you do every day, like in the morning and in the evening. She's a new founder. She's a scientist, and so it's like classic case of she's brilliant. Ideally, if we were playing for team humanity, we'd be like, just focus on the science, sister. Just focus on the science. You're brilliant. Just, get a whole team around you. But she now, as the CEO and founder, has to think about
everything. Yeah.
And so that's where, I'm excited to be backing her, via Supernova.
Barry, how do you spend your day and your week, right? You have one pie to divvy up your time, right? You wake up in the morning, you have your parent, how do you decide how to spend your time? And do you ever struggle with am I spending my time doing the right thing for me? Because you have more freedom than most people, right? It's a little different once you're post exit and you're investing, but you're also doing a dozen other things versus you have a company that you're responsible for, that you check in with your EA and you go about your day to day.
Oh man, I'm figuring it out every day. There are days where I feel like all founders on their journey, there's few moments where I'm riding that wave and I'm like, fuck yeah,
I'm killing it. I'm doing so well.
This is why I'm doing it. This is it. I finally feel like for a split second, I've got my shit together, right? Only for that to just and then I wipe out. And that's part of the beauty of being a founder or creator is you're stepping into a platform of extreme professional growth and personal development and constant feedback where you get to make adjustments to your rituals and your routines. And so, this morning, I get a check plus. Why? Because, I was, super dad, a great partner to my lover. And I got my 11, 11 minutes of charging up my heart, full of light and love, really connecting, mind, heart, body coherence. Got my, workout in at the gym, I did and then I did an 11-minute meditation, right? It's charge for the day, right? And as we know, it's firefighting, right? All of a sudden I'm going to get this email, this person, this founder is going to have an existential crisis. Why am I here? Why am I doing this? At all stages. And it's so important because I didn't know this when I was early on in my career. The best of the best. I'm talking the founders that you're reading about and that look like they've made it on your podcast, on many others, right? It's behind the scenes, we're all just human beings. We're all doing our best every day to make our way. And hopefully we're learning along the way, and we've got good counsel around us. We're making, smarter, more conscious choices that really can, power us up so we can fill up our cup. That said, no amount of money, no amount of status, no amount of success, no amount of romance. I don't care who you are. This never registered for me because I would just look at whoever was saying it. I was like, oh, well, easy for you to say, you've made it. It's trust me when I say every single person I know, the billionaires through, all the way down through to the scrappy bootstrap founder that's maxed out their credit cards like I was at one point. It's we're all nature, constantly looking to grow for more. And so the only way I found to really satisfy temporarily that soul searching quest, that thirst, that hunger for true fulfillment is to drop into your heart as a start and really search for your why and your meaning. I've done a lot of personal growth work, professional development, training. Nothing has come close to the growth I've got to experience through my work with plant medicines. And, no different than me searching on the internet via Google or now, through AI for answers, like returning to our roots, literally and figuratively, like returning to our indigenous, wisdom through plant medicines, especially ayahuasca. That's connection to source consciousness. And it's, it's very humbling and grounding, and yet it's a wonderful cup of truth that has allowed me and many others through One Heart, which I co-founded with Brandon Evans, bringing people back into what does it mean to come back into what really matters and to live your life with purpose on service and to show up that way and all that you do, all of your relationship.
I was thinking about doing a little bit of a surprise pivot on you and say, like, how does ayahuasca sprinkle into this? And I'm happy that we're here.
Telepathy. Here we go.
Yeah. So tell me about, I guess, one, your introduction to ayahuasca, because I also know that, like, if I am going on a retreat, I'm probably going to drop you a text message saying, like, how am I doing this? Right.
Yeah.
So, like, what was your introduction, and then what did you make?
My introduction was kind of interesting because, in high school, I dabbled with some plant medicines, if you will. I got the experience of reaching an altered state of consciousness through, smoking marijuana. So when I was invited to experience ayahuasca, I was like, I'm good. I've experienced it. I've had positive experiences. I've had freak out moments too, with marijuana. So I'm like, sounds really extreme, and it's really not for me. I'm good. My co-founder, Brandon Evans, is like, well, you get to answer the call. And I said, right, it's supposed to call to you. Like, that's what I've heard or read, and so I haven't had like a voice in my head. I haven't had like, a sign from the universe. Like, I think I'm good. And he's like, and Brandon's really like down to earth, grounded, very literal. He's like, bro, I'm calling you right now.
Yeah, this is the call.
Come. Like, this is the call.
Right here.
Like, literally, like, you can't make like it, how are you not connecting dots? And I'm just like, the irony, the cosmic joke, the laugh. And so anyway, so I did join him. We went to Tulum, and that was my first experience. And at first it was very similar, akin to, what I had experienced from, marijuana or mushrooms. Like, I felt like kind of, okay, I'm definitely getting high, and, and I'm having some visuals. And then within like 20 minutes, once it really started kind of kicking in, I knew right away, like, this is not anything like I've ever experienced. And the way I kind of describe it is, with marijuana or mushrooms, I'm still in control. Like, I'm projecting kind of what I'm experiencing is a projection of my reality. On ayahuasca, I knew I was connected to like source, and I don't know how to describe it other than I started asking questions just like I would of Google or AI. And I said, if this is real, tell me how the pyramids were built. I've always wanted to know. And all of a sudden I hear a response, and she says, if that's actually not the question you really want to know, Barry, what you really want to know is, why were they built? I was like, that's brilliant. Yes, actually, that's a better question. And then the next thing I knew, I was kind of transported into a pyramid and experiencing sound healing with like these anyway, I won't go into the details, but just like, that was the beginning of the inquiry. And I realized I could very quickly and easily access Akashic records, if you will, like the internet of things. Like, every plant is always listening. It's like a mycelium network. It's all connected, and it's the most genius intelligence on the planet, in the galaxy. And so while I love Google and I love AI, I can tell you that ask Siri, ask Alexa, ask ayahuasca if you're really looking for answers. And it's not for everyone. And and there's many other modalities that can also help you to get answers. We all have DMT within us, all mammals. We can release it naturally through breath work.
So Barry, I'm going to share this with you. And so, like, normally whenever I record the podcast, I'm in this like back building in the house, and my wife knows, and so she just came up, and we just found out that we are pregnant. So she just handed me this test during the podcast.
Oh, let's go! Oh, bro, that is so beautiful. That is so beautiful. Let me.
Barry, I think you and I need to go on an ayahuasca trip. I think this is the call.
I would welcome that, and most importantly, as a founder, we can birth so many things. The greatest thing we can possibly create, brother, is a life, and so I am beyond. I'm beyond excited for you both. I mean, what a blessing that is. And may we all, everyone who's listening to this podcast, even if you don't, actually, you kind of need to believe it. If you could just drop in for a second and just send light and love and blessings to this beautiful spirit that has chosen to come into to the lives right now of, and may this spirit be loved and be full of love and light and gift that to so many others on their beautiful journey. I am thrilled for you, brother. Congratulations.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. And Barry, thank you.
You got to love the timing of the universe. Yeah, you can't make this stuff up. When you're in flow, it's I won't say it's normalized because it's absolutely a miracle. There are daily miracles all around us if we open our eyes and we pay attention. And this one is one that everybody gets to experience with you, through you, from you. Thank you.
Barry, I appreciate having you on, and thank you for all you've done for other founders. And I'm looking forward to what you will do through Supernova and with other post-exit founders, helping other people go through their process. I think it's huge. So well, I really appreciate it.
I'm beyond grateful, and for your support and the support of everyone else's. And this is this isn't mine. This is ours. I see the work that you're doing with entrepreneurial, collect, all the work that you're doing. And even I talked about Colossal and what you did with, with animals, right? I mean, there's just so many beautiful pieces of work that are all patchwork intertwining, in this wonderful tapestry. We're all adding color. And so, yeah, please know that you can count on me to show up for you and in every way. I'm happy to help you with the journey. I'm also, Uncle Bear. Can't wait to be part of the extended family. And I feel like we all get in our own way and each other's way. And this notionality, I get there's competition. My kids play competitive sports. It brings us to another level but now more than ever, and especially moving forward, collaboration is the way. It's the key. We've enabled mass communication. Now it's about real collaboration. And I'm so thrilled that there's beautiful humans like you that are bringing so many wonderful people, into action. And so, yeah, I'm super excited to play with you and others that are on that journey too. The infinite games, we shall say.
We're in the middle of the infinite game.
Yes.
But Barry, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Where should people go to find you in Supernova? I got to just say this real quickly because I can't help myself. Bro, how emotional you are about being pregnant. I can see it. It's for real, for real. You're going to be such an incredible father because you care. I'm not sure if people are watching or on video, but I'm crying.
No, I know. And it's I'm so happy for you guys, but also for the child that's coming in. I am, just caring. Kindness. It's my kids, I can, they're older now. I've got a teenager. It's not what I say. It's what I embody. They can feel it. And if it's never too late, I'll just say, it's never too late to tell, your kids that you love them, to have the conversations, to get involved. And especially as founders that work a lot of our lives, and perhaps aren't as present. It's there's an opportunity they say, it's not personal, it's business. It's bullshit. It's all personal. And so, we get to be multidimensional beings. In terms of how people can find me, LinkedIn, just search for me, Barry Stamos. I'm easy to find. There's only one of me in the world. And and Supernova, the website's the number one, and then supernova.com. And I've got a personal website, barrystamos.com, for speaking. I really want to get out there and I want to, one of my intentions this year is to do more things like this, Connor. So thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit of light on a podcast. I look forward to doing that in more circles and communities in the coming future. So thank you.
Barry, thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, guys, check out Barry's website. He's a fantastic speaker. And if you go to his website, you can see some recordings of him talking to different groups. Barry, thank you for coming on. And I think you and I are going to be grabbing coffee probably soon.
I'm into it, man. I really would really welcome that. Thank you.
All right, Barry, have a good one.
That wraps up today's episode. For more inspiring stories and valuable lessons from successful entrepreneurs, be sure to listen and subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Thanks for listening. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries and writing your next chapter.